I felt a bit angry yesterday when a new video about Rhiannon appeared on YouTube. I'm not going to tell you where to find that video, because I don't want to give it oxygen, but I'll tell you later why I was so annoyed. However, I'm more interested in people knowing the facts about Rhiannon than in getting into a fight with other YouTube channels. Well, mostly. I'm going to talk about 3 things in this video. What the facts about Rhiannon are and why it's so easy to know them, and why I think the facts are important. And I'll save my complaints about that other channel's very dodgy video for last. I also want to send a thank you to my top tier patrons on Patreon for helping to keep this channel going. If you want to support my work, then sharing this video or liking it or commenting on it really helps. If you want to give me money, you'll find my Patreon link below this video. Now, let's talk about Rhiannon. The reason I say that it's easy to know the facts about Rhiannon is that there is only one source of primary information about her. Primary information about a deity might include things like inscriptions on ancient altars, like this one to Epona, or having a river named after them in the way the river Shannon is named after the goddess Rhiannon. Sometimes they're mentioned in folklore, or maybe some ancient historian wrote about them. There's nothing like this for Rhiannon, so we don't have to worry about it. You might have heard someone say that her name comes from Rigantona. Notice that asterisk. That's there to tell linguists that the name is a reconstruction. What it's really saying is that if there had been an ancient version of the name Rhiannon, it probably would have been Rigantona. But there's no early evidence for it. Rigantona is a theory. I'll cover this one in a blog post. I'll put the link in the description. We only know about Rhiannon from a body of medieval Welsh lore called the Mabinogi. We often call the Mabinogi mythology, and it more or less is, or at least it's a body of stories which grew out of mythology. If you study Celtic mythology, then you'll study the Mabinogi, which is divided into 4 parts, or long stories, called the 4 branches. Rhiannon is very much a main character in 2 of these branches. I've told those stories in lots of other videos on my channel, so I'm just going to give you a quick synopsis, or we'd be here all day. The important thing is to know that you can easily find out the truth about Rhiannon by reading the 1st and 3rd branches of the Mabinogi, and I'll put a link for a free online source in the video description. In the 1st branch, Rhiannon appears in the kingdom of Dyfed, riding on a white horse. She proposes marriage to the ruler of Dyfed, a guy called Pwyll. At their wedding feast, there is some trouble with Rhiannon's former suitor, who is named Gwawl. To sort this out, Rhiannon uses magic, and the result is that she and Pwyll eventually become man and wife, but they humiliate Gwawl in the process. It's a good story, but not today. A few years later, Rhiannon gives birth to a son, but in the morning the baby is missing, and Rhiannon is framed for killing him. She didn't kill him. In fact, he's alive and well, but Pwyll punishes her to keep his advisors happy. The punishment he chooses is that she has to offer to carry people on her back, as if she's a horse. The baby turns up safe and well somewhere else. He's raised by another couple until they realize that he's Rhiannon's child. Then they return the boy, who by this time's half grown. Rhiannon names the boy Pryderi. Rhiannon appears again in the 3rd branch of the Mabinogi. She is now older, and her husband Pwyll is dead. Her son, Pryderi, arranges for her to marry his friend, Manawydan. She and Manawydan hit it off, but things soon take a nasty turn when the whole kingdom of Dyfed is covered by a strange mist. When the mist clears, all the people and livestock and farms have disappeared, leaving just 4 people. Rhiannon and Manawydan, Pryderi, and his wife Kigva. They live off the land for a while. Then they go on an adventure, trying to make a living at various trades, but it never works out. One day, Pryderi finds himself trapped in a magical fortress. Rhiannon runs in after him and gets trapped too. Manawydan and Kigva struggle along for a while until, eventually, Manawydan manages to release Rhiannon and Pryderi, and in the process, he gets the whole kingdom back. It turns out that a magician has been taking revenge on Rhiannon for humiliating her former suitor at that long-ago wedding feast. And that's pretty much the whole story of Rhiannon. The only other thing we know about her is the birds of Rhiannon. These are mentioned in the second branch and in another Welsh story called Culhwch yn Olwen. The references are both brief and a little mysterious, but it seems that these birds come and sing soothingly when someone is grieving, and they help them forget. I go into quite a lot of detail about this in another video called Healing Pain and Trauma in Celtic Myth. So why do I care whether someone else chooses to tell Rhiannon's story differently? There are two reasons. First, the Mabinogi is a really important part of the heritage and national literature, or mythology, if you prefer, of Wales. Welsh kids learn it at school. Welsh poets are still writing about it, and so on. It's not against the law to change these stories, but it's kind of disrespectful to do so while implying that you're giving people the original myth. And that's what I see a lot of bloggers and YouTubers doing, saying, this is the story of Rhiannon, and then just making stuff up. And that matters for another reason too. Lots of people today are interested in Rhiannon as a Celtic goddess. They might want to build a relationship with her. These people often come to YouTube looking for information about Rhiannon. It's possible they don't yet know that their answers are in the Mabinogi, or they may not know how to find the Mabinogi to read it. The fact that when you Google Mabinogi, an online game comes up isn't exactly going to help them figure it out. Sadly, there are a few YouTube channels that completely rewrite Celtic myths in ways that will get them more views, and people trying to get at the truth get misled. So yes, that does make me angry. The offending video, which begins with a picture of Rhiannon riding, not a white horse, but a unicorn, says that she's known as the Queen of the Fairies. That's complete BS. She is also not the goddess of the moon. In fact, whenever you hear someone describe a Celtic goddess as the goddess of something, it's a bit of a red flag. That's not really how Celtic deities work. Next, it states that to some, she was also known as the goddess of forgiveness. That phrase, to some, is usually a sign that BS is on the way. I've been studying Rhiannon for years. I've never even heard a misinformed person call Rhiannon that. Who are these some who call her this? I think we should be told. So that's 3 wrong statements, and we're 17 seconds into this guy's video. He then goes on to rewrite the whole first branch. Once upon a time, Rhiannon ruled over the land of fairies with her father in a crystal palace at the edge of a shimmering lake. No, this isn't mythology. It's fantasy. The entire video is a cheap, silly, over-romantic fairy tale, which is definitely not Rhiannon's story. Rhiannon's real story is magical, but it's also subtle and mystical. Years of thinking about it will reward you with a growing understanding of who Rhiannon might really be and what her stories have to teach us.